How do you do, fellow kids? What's the point of this Steam machine? Have you guys seen this yet? I assume you have because you guys, you do online stuff. So let's take a look at it. Okay, there it is. We'll show you Valve's Steam machine. What's the point of the Steam machine? This is a question a lot of people are asking themselves and asking each other. I'm going to give you my hypothesis, so I'll try to answer that question. But I also do invite you to comment down below and give me your thoughts on what the point of the Steam machine actually is. Before I go any further, I would like to remind you that I do have a Patreon. That's a way that you could support me in my work. My current creative focus is a large scale guitar work and major guitar work. I will hopefully have previews for that kind of soon. I've played some of the ideas on live stream, so I might have a more full demo for patrons in a little bit, but that's a way that you can support me, and you'll get some books and some music that's a part of that membership, so you can check that out. And please do follow me on Substack. I come up with an article every week, and I'm still doing that. But let's talk about the Steam machine. The new Steam machine, which is different from the old Steam machines. This is one that is a singular piece of hardware designed by Valve that will play your Steam games. It'll run Steam OS. They're calling it the Gabe Cube. It's fairly small. It can fit in your living room. I'm pointing to my living room, right? But wherever your living room is, that's where it will go. So it'll go into your living room and connect to your TV and give you a console-like experience. At least that's what I think they're directing this towards. Now, you could buy this and use it as a desktop PC. You absolutely could. And I think that that's another possible option for people that are looking to get, maybe they're laptop users and they want a desktop PC. This could be this. But I think it's mostly going to be focused on console users, people who plug this thing into their TV. And I think there's a reason why they're targeting this this area. A lot of questions have been dropping or being asked about the price, and the price point is going to matter a lot to how successful this piece of hardware is going to be and what purpose it's really going to have. People are starting to worry because Valve said it's going to be competing in the PC space, not in the console space in terms of price. So that could be a lot because right now gaming PCs are really expensive and hardware is getting more expensive. I saw that RAM prices were shooting through the roof because RAM manufacturers were basically making all the chips that AI applications are using, large language model applications are using. So those are then going to drive up the prices of anything that would be used for other kinds of purposes such as gaming. So I don't know if you guys remember this. Almost no one I've talked to actually remembers this, but lots of influencers 5 years ago were saying that PC gaming was dead. And the reason they were saying it was dead is you couldn't get hardware. Like you couldn't get a new video card. The RTX 3080, 3090, right? That series of video cards, I have one in my computer. I guess I'm using it to record right now, right? Those were really hard to get. They were ridiculously expensive because you couldn't buy them at retail. They just weren't there. So even if you could get one, you were going to pay a scalp price, like $2,000 sometimes to get a video card. It sounds crazy. Of course, now there's just retail video cards that cost that much. But people couldn't get the hardware. So if you can't buy the hardware to play the new games, what exactly is the point of PC gaming? Just to continue using your hardware and only focus on games or run everything at low settings? The whole point of buying a PC and setting up a PC was to be an enthusiast. It's an enthusiast platform, not a casual platform. And so the gap between enthusiast and casual got wider, and I think it's going to continue to get wider with the expense of the PC. So that means that before it cost you $2,500 to build a really good custom gaming PC. Now it'll cost $3,500, maybe $4,500. Who knows how high the price will get with hardware for you to buy and then build an enthusiast level gaming rig. It's going to be really expensive potentially in the next year. I do think lots of economic factors will cause those prices to normalize quite a bit, as they tend to do. PC gaming obviously didn't die. Eventually it was a crypto bubble. The crypto bubble burst, and then people were able to buy the cards again. Right now we're in an AI bubble. That'll probably pop, and then people will be able to buy their components again. So I don't think PC gaming is at all dead. And in fact, I think the Steam machine is a good example of why PC gaming is really not dead at all, and will probably continue, is that this is a way for Valve to basically get bonus market share. And I'm basing this hypothesis on what they did with the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck did not have to really compete with the Nintendo Switch. So it's actually a mistake to think this has to compete with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. It doesn't. Okay, it is a piece of what I call bonus hardware. So if you are a gamer and you have a gaming PC, but it's in your office like mine is, it's at a desk for the traditional PC gaming experience, but you'd like to have access to some of those games that maybe you play with a controller in your living room, hooked up to your TV, in a different room, in a different place, then the Steam Machine may be a very economical and very capable way of delivering that experience. Now, I think there's some problems with Valve's execution of the console experience that I'll get into in a minute, but that's the point. So the Steam Deck, I don't need to pull out my Steam Deck and show it to you. You know what a Steam Deck looks like at this point. It didn't need to beat the Nintendo Switch. It didn't need to beat anybody. What it was, oh, it's a handheld gaming PC, and you already have Steam games because you have a PC, so you just buy this bonus piece of hardware to gain better access to your games, right? And that's what the Steam Deck is. The Steam Deck is still very much an enthusiast piece of hardware because the Steam Deck doesn't work flawlessly out of the box. You have to finagle lots of things to get things to work on the Steam Deck. I have my Steam Deck hooked up to the TV. I can have this console-like experience of my Steam Deck on the TV, and my son and my daughter, and we use those games, like we play like Castle Crashers and stuff on the TV. But here's the problem, is that is not nearly as fluid as a real console experience. So if you're looking at the GameCube as being a way to just not have a PS5, or that people will buy that instead of a PS5 and be satisfied, I don't think so. I think this is bonus hardware for enthusiasts. I'll just give you an example. It's like we wanted to play like some 3 or 4 player Castle Crashers, I think it was. And like the Steam Deck could recognize all the controllers we plugged in, but the game couldn't find them. So the game couldn't recognize more than like 2 of the controllers at a time, even though it nominally supports 4 players at once. So you have this problem where the game is designed for PC, but it doesn't work completely correct on the Steam OS. You have to use different kinds of, different versions of Proton to get it to work. You maybe have to change a bunch of things in order to get the game to load. You have to use a third-party launcher to install Final Fantasy XIV, for instance, on your Steam Deck, though it does work, and it's exciting to play that on a handheld. I even got World of Warcraft to work on my Steam Deck, which was really cool for the little time that I was able to play it. I used like a consolizer plugin or add-on. I was able to use World of Warcraft on the Steam Deck. That was pretty cool, but it took a whole lot of effort. Compare that to the PS5, which is like, if I want to play a PS5 game, I put it in the system, or I download it, but I buy a lot of physical games. So I put it in the system, it pops up on the home screen, and I play it. When I want to turn on the PS5, I press the button on the controller, the PS5 turns on, the TV turns on. It's just a completely fluid experience. I never have to adjust settings on a PS5 game. The PS5 games always run at a minimum level of quality that I can expect. There's not a bunch of jank. There's not a bunch of stuttering. There's not a bunch of bugs. There's not a bunch of crashes. Occasionally games do crash on the PS5, but if I'm comparing the amount of crashes on the PS5 to the Steam Deck is terrible in that regard, okay? So what you really need to be thinking about in terms of what the GameCube is, what the Steam Machine, the new Steam Machine is going to be, is a piece of bonus hardware. Now, I think, why would Valve bother with this when people can just have the PS5? It's because any gain into the living room is just bonus. It's just a possibility of expanding your market share even that much more. You don't need to be number one. You don't need to unseat the PS5. You just have to be a viable option for a lot of users. For users that don't mind tinkering with settings, I'm sure the Steam Machine will be an amazing product. And that's me. I don't really mind tinkering with settings, but I have to think normies don't really want to do that. That's why the PS5 or the Xbox Series X as a managed PC experience are so good, right? The console experience is fundamentally different from the PC experience. It's a more relaxed experience. It's a more casual experience. By its feeling, you feel more relaxed when you sit on the couch versus sitting up in an office chair, even a very comfortable office chair, with the display kind of further away from you. It's just a different feeling when you play the console, and that ease of use that comes from Sony, which has developed their UI and their system for decades now. They're experts at delivering that console experience. And that's why I think consoles aren't going to die either. People ask, why would I buy a PS5 when I could play things on PC? Well, you're a PC gamer, so that makes sense. You're not a casual gamer. Most people are casual gamers. They will buy a PlayStation to play games, and they work on a laptop. Okay. Most of the human beings I know, normies that I know, don't even own a desktop computer at this point in time. They buy a laptop when that laptop is kind of doesn't have enough storage, or they feel like it's too slow. They just buy another one that's new, that's in their budget, and they just use that one. And they only really use it for productive stuff. They don't play games on it. So they maybe watch YouTube on it, and then they, do Excel, whatever, do their schoolwork. That's what they use their laptop for. So the Steam machine could be a way for somebody to buy a desktop computer that hasn't bought one before. So it's all optionality with the Steam machine. Is that for somebody who's looking to get into having a desktop, doesn't want to spend $2,500 on a desktop? Because my guess for where it's going to be priced, if you want my guess it's going to be $750. Okay, that puts it in the PS5 Pro range, and then that'll be $750 for the base model. And then if you want extra stuff, just like with the Steam Deck, you're going to get up to $1,100 maybe, which is actually pretty competitive with the PS5 Pro if you understand what you usually have to buy along with the PS5 Pro. Because if you buy a PS5 Pro, you also have to buy a disk drive for it. Okay, and if you buy a PS5 Pro, you're also buying an external hard drive, a super fast SSD to play your PS4 games, and you're also buying an additional SSD to store your games. Before you know it, you're over $1,000 for your PS5 Pro. So I actually think, even though Valve said this is going to compete in the PC space, that's my guess, is that we're going to see a $750 price tag. Is that competitive? No, it doesn't need to be completely competitive. It needs to be competitive in the optionality thing. Someone could use this as an actual desktop PC. Somebody could play their Steam library on it. They already own a bunch of games for it. If they don't own a PS5 yet, but they have a Switch, this would be like, this will be like my home console. Ooh, I'll put that in there. So it becomes a really good option for a lot of people. And again, it doesn't have to ship infinity units. It doesn't have to be the PS5. It doesn't have to. The Xbox Series X, we think of it as like this failure because it's not shipping as many units as these other consoles. That's not the marker of success for the Steam machine, and I don't think it will be. Just like with the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck can be a great success by shipping any number of units that Valve can sell that maybe gets people in more, gets a few more people into the Steam ecosystem and buying PC games. And that's where the optionality of the Steam machine comes from. So that's who it's for. It's a bonus piece of hardware. It doesn't have to sell as well as the PS5. It just has to sell enough units that Valve feels like it's worth the money to get people buying more software. And if you have a new piece of hardware in your living room, same thing, this happened with me with the Steam Deck. What can this thing play? I bought games to play them on the Steam Deck because I'm like, oh, cool, I could play this on my Steam Deck. Even though I hadn't really thought about playing it on my desktop PC because I'm never at my desktop. I'm always like somewhere else. So handheld gaming fits really good into my life. And I think as an option for the TV, I think it'll be a great option. I don't think I'll get it because I already have a PS5, right? And I already have a lot of games for that ecosystem. And I know that if I'm wanting to play a game on console and I'm wanting the console experience, I'm probably just going to buy it on PS5 because it's going to be easier to run it. I won't have to, muck about with a bunch of different settings in order to get it to run. I know it's just going to run correctly. That's how it is. And I know that, like, guys, the PS5 can use mouse and keyboard as well. It's just you don't hear about it a lot because that's not where the focus for the market is. It's not using mouse and keyboard to play Final Fantasy XIV, which you can totally do on the PS5. I've done it, and I use I'll show, maybe I'll do a little video on like a couch work setup with like a lap desk. I'll come up with something like that for you guys if you want. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Leave me your thoughts about the Steam machine. That's what I think it's for. I think it's a piece of bonus hardware that any amount that they sell to new people that aren't on Steam, it's going to be a bonus. And it's mostly so that people can get more excited to play Steam games in a different environment. I think it'll still encourage sales and meet those expectations. So have a great one, and I'll see you all next time. Don't forget to check out the Patreon where you can get some books. Don't forget to buy my books on Amazon. I got a bunch of them. And check out my music, zoolonline.com. Have a great one.